Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Catherine Henry, and I'm a constitutional attorney. I did not plan my day around being able to do a Facebook or YouTube live video today. So you are getting this super polished presentation live from my backyard while it's raining, hopefully not storming soon. And I have nothing around me, unlike most of my videos. When I have my computer, I have my notes, I have the Constitution, I have laws printed, I have pretty much everything that I need to be able to answer your questions like that. Everything today is off the top of my head, in my yard, in the rain. So, why am I doing this video right now? Well, first of all, let me remind you guys, when I'm not at my computer, it is highly impossible for me to be able to keep on top of all the comments that are coming in, because I have two different YouTube channels and Facebook that are all dumping into the same screen that I'm seeing here. I see 3 at a time, unless they're super long. So I will do my best to keep up on any questions or things that you guys have, comments that you have, but I will certainly do my best to see them, but I can't guarantee that I will. If I'm lucky enough, then either my husband or the wonderful Lori, the woman behind the curtain, are going to be there helping me. It didn't even occur to me to give them a heads up I was going live right now, so who knows what they're doing or if they're able to sign on. So, with all that being said, obviously everybody knows that our can I bring myself to say it? The man who identifies himself as President Biden has decided to issue some mandates. There were some mandates that he actually issued, according to the information I've seen so far, where he's mandating that anyone who is a federal employee or a federal contractor must take the COVID vaccine. And those who are in the private sector, there are no mandates yet, but that he's planning on kneeling into the Department of Labor to issue some rules requiring that. So let's kind of break it down a little bit here. From the most basic type of understanding, any problem that we have, any questions, and here's the reason why I'm bringing this to you guys right now. It is honestly the same information with the same answers I've been giving you guys since day one for almost 2 years now. But a lot of people see it in a different context. It comes through a different news source. It comes at it, from a different angle, a different complication to their personal lives resulting. And so they think, oh my gosh, this is new. I don't know what to do with this. I know Catherine's talked about this before, so I'm going to call, I'm going to text, I'm going to email, I'm going to Facebook, I'm going to Twitter, I'm going to whatever. First of all, I have no Facebook capability to get any messages or anything useful through Facebook. You could tag me. I may never see it. You can comment on a post I make. It doesn't give me the notifications. If I remember to go into certain posts and try to follow up and see if other people have commented or replied to comments, great. Email, we get thousands. And texts and calls, I'm still a little bit, I've never caught up from last June, let me put it that way. I think I was all caught up through last May 2020, but at any rate, so please, about this situation, please try not to reach out to me individually, because I guarantee you it's the same answer that I'm going to be providing in this video. So with that being said, no matter what the problem is, you need to think about, take a step back from what the problem is and think about, first of all, who has the sovereign authority here? We do. We the people. Where does it come from? It doesn't come from the government. It comes from God. All of our rights come from God. What does that mean? We can do whatever we need to do or want to do as human beings without any permission from any governmental entity or private employer or anything like that, within the confines of how we agreed to live with each other in our, through our Constitution. But the government cannot act. It cannot do anything. It cannot own property. It cannot restrict rights. It cannot take any kind of action. It cannot make a recommendation. It cannot proverbially sneeze without permission, explicit permission from we the people. So that means the president, the governor of your state, the state reps and senators, and your congressmen, your local school boards and health departments, librarians, dog catchers, if they work for government in any capacity whatsoever, that's who I'm talking about. They literally have no ability, no power, no authority to do anything unless we, the people, have given them that authority. So how do we give them that authority? Well, the Constitution. So when you have a president who is saying to you that I am going to require people that work for my Department of State, my branch of government that I'm in control of. Now, he went beyond that, but let's say there are people properly identified as being federal government executive branch employees. To that, I would say the president, in general, has control over that. That's how it should be. In fact, I would say, and I'm going to tick off a lot of people on both sides of the aisle here, but if Trump was really getting things in order, that would have been the first order of business, is Trump would have cleaned house on day one of his first term. He would have gotten rid of a whole bunch of people that shouldn't have been in there. I don't care what letter is behind their name, the R, the D, an I, whatever. But in talking about what Biden is doing, in general, he has the right to control what is in, how things are done procedurally inside the federal government, not as it portrays or spills out into the people. However, we're not talking about just, the hours that his employees are going to be working, right? We're not talking about if he's telling them they're going to switch to a 4-day work week instead of a 5-day work week, or, whether, I don't know, he wants all people that are in any kind of defense position to be wearing blue, and he wants all the people that are in any kind of general administrative procedure, role to be wearing white. I don't know. I'm just saying to you, those are the kinds of weird examples where he would have the ultimate say, the ultimate control. But we're talking about a mandate, about putting something into your body, a medical treatment. That's a whole nother ballgame. But I'm going to come back to that because that applies no matter what we're talking about. I want to jump over to what else he said he was going to do. He said he was going to basically lean on the Department of Labor to issue rules requiring or mandating vaccines for private employees that had 100 employees or more. Private employers that had 100 employees or more. So what about that? Can he lean on the Department of Labor? I guess so, right? And here's where 99.9% of attorneys and judges will probably roll their eyes and go, oh, that's obviously not correct. But I'm going to take the unusual stance and tell you that any rule made by these governmental agencies, any rule made by the governmental agencies is not constitutional. In Michigan, we have statutes that essentially allow certain departments of the state to promulgate rules according to certain procedures, and then they essentially have the same force and effect of law. That's not how this works. Let's think about it. We elect legislators in certain districts. In fact, there's a huge fight on the redistricting commission right now. Whole other story in Michigan. But we elect people in certain districts to represent the people from that district. So if it's on a school board, you're electing someone to represent your interests from that area or within, that community for that school board. If you're talking about your city council, or, I was, until I just moved to Florida, I was a Georgetown Township trustee. I was representing roughly 50,000 people in the seventh largest township in all of Michigan, and my job was to represent those people, the values that those people hold dear. But keeping in mind, no matter what you think the majority wants you to do, as a government official, you take an oath to support, defend, depending on what oath it is, but to support and defend the U.S. and state constitution. Hopefully the storm rolls that way a little more. Otherwise, I will be running and continuing the video in a minute. So your two jobs, sorry, different camera, different phone. Two jobs that you have as a government official is to represent the people that you are working for. Represent them. Not just do whatever the heck you want because you have a lot of money and power and prestige. Represent the people. And number two, and dare I say this is actually the higher priority one, you have to follow the Constitution. Scratch that. You have to defend and support the Constitution. You have to ensure that anybody in your wheelhouse, so to speak, is also doing their job to follow the Constitution. If you, for example, when I was serving as Georgetown Township trustee, if I knew that my state rep or my governor or whomever was doing something that was unconstitutional or illegal, it would be my job to do my part to try to hold them accountable. Something that's been very exhausting for the last year and a half, 2 years now. So at any rate, these concepts I know are not new, coming from me. Anybody who's been listening to me for more than 5 minutes has heard those concepts come from me. Those are just things that we take for granted, that we forget. We go into every new problem that comes up and we're like, whoa, can the government do this? Where does it have permission? Don't ask me where in the Constitution does it allow me to work without having drugs pumped into my body involuntarily. Well, that's the 9th Amendment, okay, among other things. Or state constitution. Most state constitutions have a similar provision. Michigan's is Article 1, Section 23. Your unenumerated rights. Okay, so in other words, you don't have to look for the parts in the law or in the Constitution that give you the right to breathe fresh air, to simply live without having something injected into your body. At any rate, we could go down all kinds of examples. Did I mention I'm outside and it's Florida? I'm melting a little bit here. But hey, it's been a great weight loss plan. So, and if you're in the government, again, President of the United States, Governor of the great state of Michigan, Supervisor of Georgetown Township trustees, whatever it is, you could be on the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners, anything. Oh, people are calling. How nice. Somebody from Maryland. If you're watching, I'm not going to answer because I'm doing a little video right now. At any rate, it doesn't matter what level of government you're in. You don't deserve to be in government, and you might be darn well violating several constitutional provisions and statutes and many other things if you are not following, defending, supporting the state and federal constitutions. So you can't just do whatever you want and then try to figure out some law that supports it later on. So what does all this mean? If a state legislature or Congress has given any particular non-elected bureaucratic body the authority to issue rules to control the people in any way, not just issue rules on how they're going to function within that own department, right? The hours that they're open or the kinds of paperwork that they have to do, what kind of computer systems or technology or security that they're going to utilize, those kinds of things. That's totally appropriate for those situations. But when you have a unelected bureaucratic body, the Department of Labor for the United States, you have Michigan Department of Health and Human Services for a state department, for example. Any of those, local and health departments all around a particular state, any of those unelected positions, they never have the constitutional authority to regulate the people. Their dang job is not to create laws. It's not to make legislation. Their job is, if they're in the executive branch, their job, get this, is simply to enforce the laws, the constitutional laws that the legislative branch has properly enacted. That's it. That is their job. It is to create policy. Is policy legally enforceable? No. Is policy going to be something that they can use to require you to do something? No. Policy does not equal mandate. Policy does not equal requirement. Policy does not equal any kind of force or coercion at all. We have a policy in my house that when you're going through the drive-through, if you're at Chick-fil-A or whatever, my husband's favorite, Taco Bell, if you're going through the drive-through and you're ordering for the entire family, we have a policy that you don't pull away from that drive-through until you look in the bag and you make sure that everybody's meal is there. And you have napkins, and you have the drinks, and you have the utensils and whatever sauces are needed, because come on now, you can't eat your meal without your sauce if it's drive-through food. We have a policy that you don't drive away unless you check all of that, because inevitably it's going to be it's going to be me, right? It's going to be me, or it's going to be the whiniest kid that you have that's going to end up not getting their sauce or their nuggets or something, right? So that's a policy. Now, does that mean that if my husband chooses to be impatient and drive off before checking that there's some sort of, legal result that comes out of that there's a mandate, that there's a requirement? No, he's going to have to deal with the whiny kid or, hungry wife or whatever the case may be, right? That is a policy. So a governmental and executive branch in any level of government can make policy. I just said that all wrong. That's the legislative branch's job. But anyway, the point is to distinguish what policy is from what laws and mandates are. We've been doing a lot of, you might walk into a store and hear, well, our company policy is we won't serve you unless you have a mask or unless you've been vaccinated or whatever, right? Policy does not override inherent, constitutionally protected, God-given liberties, okay? Policy does not mean that you're going to lose your job. Policy does not mean any of those things, okay? If you want to make something a requirement, just call it a requirement, call it a mandate, call it one of those appropriate terms. But those unelected bodies, the Department of Labor, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, those are two easy examples of things that are happening right now related to these mandates, right? They don't get to constitutionally create any kind of rule or mandate that requires you to put some sort of anything in your body to take any kind of unconsented medical treatment or to disclose your medical status to anyone. They don't have the authority to do that. I don't care what law your state legislature in any state or the U.S. Congress has thought that it was appropriate to pass. I don't care. I don't care what president or governor signed that ridiculous dumb bill. Those people are all idiots. If they're still in office because they, brought into place a statute of that nature, they should lose their jobs immediately. They should be recalled. They should be held accountable in other ways. Hey, did you guys know there's a ton of federal statutes on the books that actually make it a crime for you to conspire to hinder or try to take away the constitutionally protected rights of another person here in the United States? Did you guys know that? So every single time a president, a governor, an MDHHS director, or your local health department director, or a school board, or anybody else for that matter, decides they're going to try to take away your rights, they're actually violating a federal law. And oh, by the way, that federal law, I want to say, has a minimum 10 years of punishment in prison, of course, fines. But if somebody ends up dying because of that act, you can actually get the death penalty according to this federal statute. So I think it's kind of serious. So where are all of the prosecutors out there that are supposed to be doing their jobs and prosecuting these offenses? Where are all the law enforcement officials? Hey, if this is in your jurisdiction that somebody is doing something, if they're harming somebody in your jurisdiction, get out there and make an arrest, would you? Anyway, that's totally not why we're talking about this. We're talking about, can President Biden do this? Well, I hope you now realize that as far as in general, we talked about making mandates or requirements for the president to make any kind of requirements for federal employees within the executive branch. That's normal. That's okay, unless it violates a constitutionally protected God-given liberty, but that's a different story. We'll get to that in a minute. As far as the president being able to require all federal employees to do something, well, we have this thing. It's implied in the U.S. Constitution. It's actually blatantly spelled out in the Michigan State Constitution and in most state constitutions, but it's this little concept we call the separation of powers. So we often hear people talk about the separation of church and state as though that's actually written into the Constitution, which it's not, ever, anywhere, in any constitution. But the separation of powers, meaning somebody who's in the executive branch can only exercise the powers of the executive branch, and nothing that properly belongs as a power to the legislative branch or the judicial branch, that's actually a thing. In fact, it's not much of a stretch. It's not much of an inference if you look at the U.S. Constitution and you see that we have Article 1, Article 2, and Article 3 that delineate the powers and functions of different branches of government. Those are pretty much separated. In fact, I would venture to guess that, pretty confidently so, that if you were a fly on the wall back when the Constitution was being written, and if somebody had said, hey, dude, could you make sure to put in there that there's actually like a separation of powers between these branches? Everybody in the room would have turned and looked at that guy going, really? So do you also want us to put in here, make sure to breathe air if you would like to continue living? I mean, it's kind of one of those things. It's an obvious. But at any rate, so no, the president does not have the authority in the Constitution to just mandate really anything for the other branches in that respect. Um, the well, each branch takes care of its own, essentially, is what I'm trying to say to you. So when it comes to the private sector, there's certain things that government properly, one may argue, government properly is involved with. So where you have, for example, we had movements for a minimum wage, or for, OSHA, or, things related to unsafe work conditions, that people can't be forced to work X amount of hours a day, or that you can't have children under the age of whatever it is these days, that can't work in different sectors, right? Different industries. That those are all meant to make sure that we are safe, that our basic human liberties are intact. Can the government even do that? Well, if it's just to keep us safe, no, they actually can't. There's no constitutional provision that allows that. But if it's somehow tied to the notion of a basic human right, that, children can't be worked to the bone, or something of that nature, I would argue that children have those rights as their unenumerated rights, guaranteed and protected in the U.S. Constitution. But, that doesn't just, those are tied to rights that we have, we as individuals. What Biden is trying to do is to get the Department of Labor to issue mandates that take away the individual's liberty to choose whether to receive a vaccine, whether to receive a medical treatment. It's no longer a choice. Where there is risk, there must be choice. Really, in anything, but certainly when it comes to medical decisions. And by the way, I'm going to just give a quick shout out to Michigan for Vaccine Choice, because had it not been for my run for state rep in 2015, 2016, and getting to know the wonderful people that are part of Michigan for Vaccine Choice, I would not have even had the light bulb go off about that this is even a thing, right? That this is even something we should be thinking about, or concerned about, or talking about. Because, well, if you grew up in the 80s, you had maybe 17 vaccines between birth and, becoming an adult, and they were just commonplace things. And, oh, by the way, there wasn't this, initially, there wasn't this cute little federal law that prohibited people from suing the vaccine manufacturers. So if a vaccine manufacturer actually, I don't know, screwed up and needed to be held accountable, they would be held accountable just like anybody else that would make anything that would harm people in the United States. So once that happened, where you can't just sue the vaccine manufacturers, that took away one of those safety nets. And it made things, it really paved the way for this kind of stuff to happen, where we have vaccine mandates. It might have taken a long time, but obviously what we've seen in the last almost 2 years now is how things are grossly accelerating. And I think, honestly, if you love your freedom, think of this as a good thing. Because when we've seen it go slow, this progression that goes from decade to decade to decade, and it's just this little bit at a time, right? This one little issue, this one little issue, this one little issue, and then it grows and grows and grows and grows. And then all of a sudden you look back and you're like, how did we get here? This is not okay. That's because things are so slow and people are so lazy or complacent that they're just not seeing the freedom that's being ripped away from them. Or they think somehow that government overreach or social approval of such things it's not going to apply to them. It's not going to hurt them until it does. And then they're like, what, wait, this rule's going to apply to me? Oh, that it is bad then. I'm sorry. Can I change my mind? So for anybody who thinks that, if you're losing hope and you think God is not involved in this, that God has forsaken us, or that, why would God allow all these bad things to happen, yada, yada. I'm going to tell you this. I've been telling people from the beginning, this is all part of God's plan because he is trying to wake us up all at the same time on all of these issues. It's hitting us like a ton of, okay, whoever is texting or calling or whatever, unless it's my husband. No, it's not, but my dad's watching me, at least he was. And so, Dad, if you're still watching me, hi, love you, miss you. Um, so, at any rate, if you need me, I just muted my phone, so I'm not going to see your messages, anybody. But anyway, wow, okay, that was the last straw on my being able to concentrate. Let me see. I had like 6 trains of thought all trying to go at the same time here. And well, they all derailed at the same time. Yes, okay. So anyway, my point was that God is with us in this. He is with us because he wants everybody. He's like, okay, you guys weren't listening before, and you do have free will, like somebody pointed out on one of the YouTube channels. You do have free will. But let me do what I could do to help try to convince you enough is enough. You need to do something. You need to change what is happening. So that's where we're starting to see, they're trying to literally abuse our children with masking and forced medical treatments and, putting distance between them and other children and them and the adults that are supposed to be there to care for them and love on them and help bring them up. It takes a village to raise a child. Yeah, but your village can't actually have anything to do with your child. They have to maintain the 6-foot distance. They have to be socially distanced, but also maintain masking. Nobody can see social, cues or facial expressions. Children will have to learn all that on their own because obviously in such a tech-driven society, our children are able, our teenagers and the millennials are all able to totally figure out social cues and appropriate social responses anyway. So might as well make it even better by covering faces, keeping people physically distant, making sure they're totally and utterly alone so that the government can come in and make it better and fix things and take care of them. Because why should we be able to rely on each other? Why should we be able to communicate with one another and turn to one another and find that connection and that fellowship that God intended for us? That was sarcasm. If anybody doesn't understand that about me, all those things are actually what's happening and they're bad, and we need to be able to have that connection and that fellowship. And that is precisely why I think you should not lose hope, because God is in this. He is trying to wake everyone up and say, hello, don't you get it yet? So this is the awakening. This is what's happening. This isn't just, what was it, 08, 09, something like that, and a big Tea Party movement, and then you have a whole, a few 100,000 people here and a few 100,000 people there, and they're super ticked for a little bit, and then it goes away. Or you have, whatever, right? No, this is something that Republicans and Democrats and independents and those who have never voted in their lives are getting upset. They're getting irate. They're getting frustrated. They're questioning. They want to know what's going on, and they're wanting to get involved. I had people the entire time I was doing the Restore Freedom Initiative constitutional amendment petition in Michigan last year, the entire 6 months, I had people coming up to me saying to me, people that were in their 60s and 70s, I have never voted. I've never even registered to vote because I felt like it didn't matter to me, or I moved a lot, and so I didn't feel like I really should have much of a say in any particular locality or something of that nature. I had people saying to me, I have never voted in my life, but I am going to vote now, and I'm going to get educated on not just the highest race, not just the statewide races, but every single race, and that is exactly what you need to be doing. So don't think that going to a school board meeting, it has nothing to do with what the president just mandated. Oh, it has everything to do with what our president just mandated. Everything to do with it. If you are, if you are thinking about taking time to email your county commissioner or your state representative or your city council member, if you were thinking about telling them something that was a concern to you about any kind of a government overreach that's been going on, and then you heard about this, announcement from the White House, and you're like, I just don't even know what to do anymore. We have what's going on in Afghanistan, and with all the, I can't even mention that. I mean, that's a whole nother video, whole nother segment, but you have all of that that's overwhelming, and it's enough to tear a person apart. Then you have these mandates, and you have people that are in the private sector, you have people that are in the public sector. It's confusion. You have, last I saw, 19 governors and two different states attorney generals that are, fighting these mandates. Some really great insight and comments, by the way. And but a neighboring state might go, you had North Dakota, South Dakota, and Iowa that all chimed in, and they're like, yet no, this isn't how we do things in the United States of America. Some really great comments, by the way, from their governors and their leaders. And then you have the Minnesota, this great state of Minnesota that, hello, how is that not confusing? My son is in southwest Minnesota. He's an hour or so from Iowa, and he's maybe 45 minutes or so from South Dakota. It's, if he wants to go shopping, it might be closer for him to head over to Brookings, or even to head down south to Iowa to go somewhere than it might be for him to head all the way over to the Twin Cities or Mankato. My point is, we shouldn't have freedom in one state and not freedom in another state. That's not how this works. This is a country where we do have states' rights, but states' rights do not override human rights. They do not override God-given liberties, and states' rights are not a thing inherent from God. Our individual liberties are inherent from God. They are gifts given to us by God that are protected and enshrined in the Constitution, our state and federal constitutions. So we need to keep all that in mind when we're asking these questions. Now, I've kind of touched on it, but again, whether it's a federal, workplace mandate, or it's a private sector mandate, or a public sector mandate, either way, it's not okay. Now, what some of these governors have said is that they actually agree with allowing, let me see if I can find you one here. Because I thought that some of these, was it Mississippi? No, Missouri. No, I'm blaming all the wrong states. Okay. At any rate, I thought it was really great that one of these states was talking about, their governor mentioned, listen, where is it? It was a really good, well, at any rate, one of these governors made it a point to say, listen, I think all along I've been advocating that a private sector employee gets to make those decisions on whether their employees have to wear masks or whether they have to have the COVID vaccine or anything like that. And as governor of this particular state, I'm going to fight to make sure that those private sector employees always have that right. Now, what I found very interesting is that this particular governor also said that it was by the same, the flip side of the same coin is that those same private sector employees should also be able to make the determination that they don't want their employees to have to be vaccinated as a condition of employment. So I thought that at least the ideology was consistent there, and I applaud that particular governor. It's a step in the right direction. What I will say to you, though, and basically that would have been the argument that State Representative Steve Johnson from, the Wayland, Dorr, Allegan County area of Kent County area of Michigan, what his stance would have been and has been on some of these issues that I've asked him about before and what he's posted about before on Facebook as to why he votes certain ways. That he believes, for example, he voted, he was only one of 2 state reps that voted last year against, I want to say it was House Bill 5672, that was allowing microchipping of human beings. And he voted against it. And at first I was like, yes, I knew that guy was my friend for a reason. He loves freedom. He loves liberty. He loves the Constitution and human rights. Just the same as I do. This is great. I want to interview him. I want people to see exactly why. And before I even got to talk to him in person, I saw people asking him why he made that vote, and he explained it. And then I later did ask him about it. And I want to say Bo LaFave was the other state rep who made the same vote and did it for the exact same reasons, which is they believed that they voted against that because they believed, let's see, how did it work? Well, anyway, it's complicated what the vote was. Their vote was no, but their vote was essentially what their vote did was to say that there shouldn't be this particular bill because they believed that an employer should have the right to require somebody to get microchipped as a condition of employment. That sounds totally crazy and wasn't totally on topic with what we're saying. So let me repeat that for you. These 2 Michigan state representatives voted last year, and I believe it was House Bill 5672. They voted no on that bill because they believed that private employers should be able to require their employees to get microchipped as a condition of employment. And last I knew, they were both strong Christian conservatives. So how they think that God would allow or advocate for or want in any capacity the mark of the beast or any kind of microchipping of a human being is really beyond me. Of course, then you have state reps like Jack O'Malley up north in Michigan who touted how wonderful this bill was, and in fact that the only way that it could go, to a requirement is really in situations such as in criminal cases, because microchipping of criminals is the new ankle tether, the new house arrest monitoring system, because requiring somebody to inject something into their bodies is supposedly the okay way to track them for purposes of probation. Well, needless to say, I don't agree. And I would like to think that almost anybody watching this video right now would also not agree. So in any respect, whether we're talking about microchipping, whether we're talking about masking, whether we're talking about vaccines, and here's the thing. What I love about the comments that these governors have made is that most of them aren't even talking about the effectiveness of the vaccine. Some are saying it's life-saving, and I'm like, oh, no, it's actually not. But what I love about the fact that most of them are doing is not talking about the effectiveness, the efficacy, any of the science with it, because really it doesn't matter. It could be, even if it was a totally medically legitimate way to cure COVID-19, we'd still have the same question before us. We'd still have the same problem. Can the government, let alone a president who is not elected to make laws, can the government in general or a president specifically require people to utilize such a medical treatment, even if it was 100% uncontested that that medical treatment would prevent or cure COVID-19? The answer is no. We live in the United States of America. In fact, this is where some of these other governor comments really come into play. Well, for example, the governor in Wyoming said, I have asked the Attorney General to stand prepared to take all actions to oppose this administration's unconstitutional overreach of executive power. It has no place in America, not now and not ever. That was a fabulous comment. Right on. Texas governor. Biden's vaccine mandate is an assault on private businesses and civil liberties, but, you know. I issued an executive order protecting Texans' right to choose whether they get the COVID vaccine and added it to the special session agenda. Texas is already working to halt this power grab. Let's see. Well, one part of the Tennessee governor's comment was really on point here. He said that this is not about freedom is a phrase that should never come out of a U.S. president's mouth. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. For a fight that requires working together, a lot of cynical and divisive edicts came out of the White House today, pitting the vaccinated against the unvaccinated, businesses against employees, and the federal government against the states. I think that is profound in a lot of ways. Well, of course, this is also fabulous. Well, and the guy's first name is Henry, so, you know. The South Carolina governor, the American dream has turned into a nightmare under President Biden and the radical Democrats. They have declared war against capitalism, thumbed their noses at the Constitution, and empowered our enemies abroad. Yep. Yeah, that's actually all pretty much happened. And he summarized it in, what is that, like less than 20 words? Rest assured, we will fight them to the gates of hell to protect the liberty and livelihood of every South Carolinian. Dang, maybe I should have moved there. Don't worry, hun, if you're listening, I'm not packing our bags. The Oklahoma governor said it is not the government's role to dictate to private businesses what to do. Once again, President Biden is demonstrating his complete disregard for individual freedoms and states' rights. I love that both of those were identified. As long as I am governor, there will be no government vaccine mandates in Oklahoma. My administration will continue to defend Oklahoma values and fight back against the Biden administration's federal overreach. Okay, now see, here is North Dakota, Doug Burgum. That governor said President Biden's misguided plan steers our country down a dangerous path away from states' rights and the freedom of private businesses to make their own decisions on vaccinations. We stand opposed to this blatant federal overreach. The interesting thing about that is businesses themselves don't have the rights. We as people, as individuals, have the rights. And we have rights to make, create our own businesses and to essentially run our businesses as we see fit in many respects. But to the extent that we are, creating a business that is, training mercenaries to kill random people or, to do something, I mean, that's an extreme example, but the point being, you don't have the unlimited right to just have a business to do whatever you want, and you can't just do whatever you want to your employees once they are working for you. So, our rights are guaranteed to us in the Constitution, and those unenumerated rights, the reason why that clause is in there is because it's not just that we have them. It's not just a part where our founders said, hey, by the way, don't forget, we have all these rights. No, it's literally a part of the Constitution that says, government, hey, you trying to enforce our laws, don't forget that we have these God-given liberties that aren't listed on this piece of paper, but we still have them. And yes, you, as the government official trying to enforce the laws and the constitutional provisions of these great United States, you have to make sure that you are giving proper and equal protection of the laws. Equal protection of the laws so that our unenumerated and enumerated rights are secured. So even private businesses can't just do whatever they want and require masks or vaccines or whatever, because that's not how God designed things. And it's not how we cemented that agreement of our society in our U.S. Constitution. I love this. The Montana governor, President Biden's vaccination mandate is unlawful and un-American. We are committed to protecting Montanans' freedom and liberties against this gross federal overreach. You're gonna whine about being hot out here. Just do dude. It is hot out here.
This is a cutting page, and it says cut out the words.
Yep. Then do that one. Do that one page.
No, it says blue, and I have nothing to.
Okay, I'm doing a video right now. A few hundred people are watching me. Skip that one for now. Yes, child. Thank you. Love you. Homeschooling. Talking about cutting and pasting, and she doesn't have paste. Fun of moving. Okay, so here's the one comment I was trying to find for you guys earlier. The Mississippi governor writes, the president has no authority to require that Americans inject themselves because of their employment at a private business. The vaccine itself is life-saving, but this unconstitutional move is terrifying. This is still America, and we still believe in freedom from tyrants. I mean, if anybody missed that, just listen to this again. The Mississippi governor said this: the president has no authority to require that Americans inject themselves because of their employment at a private business. The vaccine itself is life-saving, but this unconstitutional move is terrifying. This is still America, and we still believe in freedom from tyrants. Now, I love 80% of what this comment says. So even if you are someone who believes the vaccine is going to save your life or the life of someone around you, it is still unconstitutional to mandate someone get it, even for the President of the United States to mandate it. And why? Because this is still America, and we still believe in freedom from tyrants. Now, the frustrating part is that the governor of the state of Mississippi believes that the vaccine itself is life-saving. Perhaps there can be situations where it's saving people's lives, but unfortunately, the high rate of severe reaction and illness as a direct result of having the vaccine is already skyrocketed and jumped way over the amount that it should have been as compared to any other vaccine that's being administered. In fact, when vaccines, I want to say for SARS, were first came out and they got to 50 people that died, it was pulled, right? Oh, we can't have this kind of a vaccine. No, this is bad. We need to re-look at this. Nope, I don't even know what the numbers are these days, but thousands upon thousands of people have been died or had some sort of severe adverse physical reaction from the vaccine. And the thing is, this vaccine is not meant, the bad side effects of this, it's kind of like Agent Orange, I would say. It's something that some people got the bad stuff right away, right out of the gate from having it. But it's something that it was years and years later that the severe adverse reactions and death may result because the rest of the body was essentially being attacked or torn apart in some respect over time in a way that was not detectable until it was too late. That's what these vaccines are doing. And I saw, let's see, was it in one of my drop downs? Oh goodness, it's gone now, but I did have a vaccine drop down notification that was talking about teenage boys are really at risk when it comes to complications with their heart because of this vaccine. And especially what this means, listen, if you have a child or grandchild or niece or nephew, I want you to listen. My son is just one of millions. I have a child who's about to be 18 years old. He is 17 years old, and he is working full time for a regional company, needless to say. They certainly have more than 100 employees. And if he's going to maintain his position there, if such a mandate were going to come down, he would be required to get this vaccine, which as a teenage boy is going to grossly impact his health and put him at risk for severe complications with his heart. That scares the hell out of me. That's my baby boy we're talking about. That is my firstborn child. And even though I still think my son has a long way to go in terms of being able to make his own decisions on big and serious issues. I mean, he's 17, right? I mean, who hasn't been there? If he is going to take the vaccine, if he is going to do something like that, inject something like that into his body against my better judgment, I would sure as heck hope he's doing it because he's done his own research and he's making his own medical decision, not because he needs to keep his job so that he can pay his bills as he's moving on into adulthood. That's not okay. So, anyway, just a thought about that. So I'm hoping I'm just going to kind of, refresh here. We talked about the president's ability to make the mandate when it comes to the federal employees in the executive branch, and in the other two branches, we talked about the president's authority to make a mandate when it comes to the private sector. We talked about the Department of Labor's authority, proper authority or lack thereof, to make a mandate such as this for private sector employers and their employees. So what does this mean? Well, this means that if you are fired or reprimanded, or what was it, like, I don't remember, Spirit Airlines or Delta or something like that, that they were going to start putting them on unpaid leave if they had any kind of exemption. So the company is acknowledging that exemption and keeping them on the books, but not actually going to allow them to work or get a paycheck. Kind of a dirty trick, if you ask me. But in any event, if you're being told you're going to lose your employment, lose your hours, whatever the case may be, receive any kind of sanctions or threats or tenure or benefits or anything like that, because you cannot or will not get the vaccine, wear a mask, get a microchip implanted into your body, or any of those kinds of things, the answer is still the same as it was last year when I was answering these questions for people. Can the government do this? Can private employers do this? Constitutionally speaking, absolutely not. Absolutely not. There is no way that any of that is a-okay. Not at all. Not in any state of the United States of America. Are they going to get away with it? That depends on you. Don't look to your neighbor or your legislator or somebody else to fix it for you. If you're lucky enough to live in a state where your governor or your attorney general, or better yet, both, are fighting tooth and nail for your freedom, or you have a state legislature that is on the ball and has actually read the Constitution a time or two, great. That doesn't mean you should be lazy about your rights either. But certainly, if you live in a state such as Michigan, where you have a trifecta of an attorney general, a secretary of state, a governor who, may have read the Constitution that one time, but then they thought it'd be better to use it as toilet paper. You've got your work cut out for you. But don't look to an attorney to solve it. Don't look to, I haven't met him yet, but what is that? I think Jimmy Thomas is an attorney that's been fighting for freedom recently. Matt DePerno with the election stuff. Me, people like Scott Hagerstrom that were fighting in courts over the election stuff. Don't look to an attorney to fight this battle for you. Don't look to a state rep or two to introduce a bill to make this all better. Yes, they need to be doing their jobs. Yes, you should be holding them accountable when they don't do their job. But what you need to be doing is holding every one of them accountable all the way up. Join in organizations. Join a part of one organization or in multiple organizations. For example, I am a member of Michigan for Vaccine Choice. That's a statewide organization. I'm also, I don't know anymore if I'm a member or just a supporter or whatever of Ottawa Impact and the various different branches that it's having. I was prior vice president of the River City Patriots Tea Party group. I've, you name it. I was elected this year to the 2nd Congressional District of the Michigan Republican Party, that committee, as well as to the, Michigan Republican Party State Committee, a state committee woman. In whatever capacity you're in, you could be in multiple things. Hold people accountable. Do your job. Play your part to encourage people to get involved, to write your state reps, write an actual letter if that's what you prefer, send out emails if you prefer that. Keep them short, keep them specific, keep them accurate. Don't pull some random stuff off the internet or off of Facebook and just go, oh, this sounds good, so I'm going to send this to my state rep and be like, bam, got you. You don't got them doing anything unless you are engaging with them. Whatever you do, you don't have to be the world's best writer. Write it in a way that you would want to read it. If you were a state rep, and I don't care if you say to me, well, I'm only a so-and-so, I would never be a legislator. You could be anything and be a legislator. You could be a homemaker, you could be an attorney, a doctor, you could be a teacher, a farmer, an insurance agent, microbiologist, you name it. If you're a United States citizen and of the appropriate age and live in the appropriate jurisdiction, then there you go. You could be a state rep or a state senator. So think if you were in their shoes, if you were in the shoes of that county commissioner, that city council member, that township trustee, that state representative, whoever you're writing, and write them. Don't think it doesn't do anything. Oh, it does something. But you have to be effective with what you're doing. You don't want to sound like a nut job. You want to come after them with information that is concise and easy to understand and informative and definitely accurate. So write them. If you want to write them once a week or once a day, whatever it is, maybe break it down and make it simple. This day is going to be this particular topic. This, I'm going to build on that. So the next day is this topic, or do it once a week, whatever you think is best.
I'm done.
That is fabulous, but let's celebrate when I'm done, okay? Keep working on for tomorrow's stuff, okay? Okay. My baby girl is barreling through her schoolwork, and I am so super proud of her right now, but you guys didn't tune in to hear that, so let's get back to what we were talking about. You can be effective, but keep it simple and straight and to the point. Say what you need to say, but make it something that if you read it, would you know what the person is looking for? Would you know what they're talking about? Would you know that you're the correct person to be reading it? Would you know that they were intentionally directing it to you? Would you know what it is they were asking you to do? What is the purpose of you getting that communication as a state representative or some other government official? That's what you need to ask yourself when you're writing those communications. Write it and then read it from that perspective, or have somebody else read it from that perspective. And if it takes too long to read it, then your government representative's not going to read it. Most of the time. Most of the time, you need to keep it very simple. If a state rep who has 90,000 people in Michigan in their district, on average, 90,000 people in their district, if that state rep had 900 people reach out to them, what is that? 1%? I can't even do math today. I'm melting. But at any rate, it's a small percentage. It's a fraction. It's tiny. It's minuscule. But think about it. If they had 900 people reach out to them with a simple, straightforward message about do your job to defend the U.S. and Michigan or whatever constitution and oppose vaccine mandates, and give them maybe 1 or 2 points. Maybe you want to talk about the science, then focus it on the science. Maybe you want to just talk about the law or the constitutional aspect, then do that. Don't do it all together, all in one. I mean, after all, this is not one of my appellate briefs where you have, 300 pages you're trying to cut it down to. Let's see. I think I've answered all the main questions. I think. Whatever you do, don't just quit. I've had this asked of me by some physicians and some other people recently, as well as in the past. If you have an employer, whether it's a private sector employer or a public sector, it doesn't matter. If your employer they verbally told you that you are going to lose your job, or you are going to be punished in some way if you don't get the vaccine, or you don't disclose your vaccination status, or you don't wear a mask, or you don't whatever, right? Get whatever kind of unwanted medical treatment we're talking about here. Don't jump the gun and just resign or quit or move on so that you don't have that blemish on your employment record. No, get it in writing while you're still there. Something to the effect of, I just wanted to follow up, dear boss, I'm writing you this email because I just wanted to follow up with the phone conversation we had earlier today, or the meeting around the water cooler, this impromptu meeting that you said we had to do, the vaccine, or that we had to start wearing masks or we would lose our jobs. I just wanted to follow up and make sure that we're on the same page. What I heard from you today is that if I don't fill in the blank, right? If I don't get the vaccine, that I am going to lose my job. And that there is no exemption and there is no talking about it, and basically this is going to be the new unwritten but yet super enforceable policy of this company or of this department or whatever. And I just want to let you know, and then go from there. Okay? Now maybe you want to take the tact of educating them on the medical stance of things. There's a lot of medical experts, Dr. Martin Dubrovik of Cadillac, Michigan, or PPE expert and veteran Kristen Megan, or Tammy Clark. I don't remember exactly what her area of expertise is, other than I know that she talks about PPE and a lot of other related things, and that'd be Tammy Clark with Stand Up Michigan, in case those of you were wondering. There's a lot of other experts and medical professionals out there that are talking about these things. There's the guy who invented, the mRNA sequencing in vaccines, if I'm saying any of that correctly. He's saying, whoa, this is not the way to use that. You could go that route. You could talk to them about, the science or the medicine of it. Just make sure you're citing your sources so that they could follow up if they'd like to. Or you could take the route of telling them how it's not legal given whatever sector you're in and whatever laws apply, or even better yet, that it's unconstitutional, and talk about, the Ninth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, or, the Article 1, Section 23 of the Michigan State Constitution, or your state's analogy or analogous provision if you're from a different state. You could go that route. That's not bad. You might want to take a different tact completely and do something that I've seen some people doing more recently, which is to say, you know what? I just want you, Mr. Employer, Mr. Boss, I want you to know I'm not refusing to take this vaccine or wear the mask every single day, whatever the case is. I'm not refusing this unwanted medical treatment. I'm just waiting for you to provide me information on the safetyness and effectiveness of this course of treatment and your source for that information. I am looking for you to, because we have the whole vaccine immunity thing for vaccine manufacturers, I'm looking for you to tell me which doctor is out there saying that they're essentially holding out with their livelihood on the line to say that these vaccines are safe and effective and that there's not any kind of risk to my health or physical well-being by taking this vaccine, and that they are willing to be responsible for any ramifications that come about from taking this vaccine. That I look forward to receiving any information you have on any of the side effects, and any guarantees that you'd be able to provide that those side effects will not be happening to me in my condition or my age or whatever the specifics are there. That I am wanting to reiterate that as soon as I have, and you can ask for all kinds of various information like that. There's letters out there. I believe on our page we've shared some of those. I have not written them myself. But you could say, once I have this information, I am more than willing to go ahead and get this medical treatment if I've then been able to discuss it with my medical providers and pray about it and make sure that I'm making the right medical decision for myself and for my immediate family. And I'd like you to confirm that if it does, in fact, look like that's not going to be the case, that it's going to be unsafe in some way for me or my immediate family for me to take any of this medical treatment, that I would not be receiving any kind of um, um, punishment or termination or, negative treatment at work or discrimination at work because of that decision. Or if you already know that's, they've point blank told you that there is no exemption and you would be fired or something like that, then you want to say, again, I am more than willing to do that and comply with this if, you're able to provide me with any of this information, and then just kind of leave it at that. So you're laying the groundwork. Now, what does this mean? Does this mean that you are not going to be able to get fired? Well, no, I can't guarantee you that. Does this mean that you're going to see, is this a Staples Easy button for you to utilize? I have no Staples Easy button. I wish I did. I don't have it for anything. Laundry, the law, yard or pool maintenance, hair. Trust me, I have no easy answers for you. This is no exception. But it's one way for you to cover your bases and for you to lay the groundwork for it. Let's say you do get terminated and you are looking for a new position and you talk to an employer and they're like, oh, geez, we were thinking about hiring you, but we see that you were terminated from your last job because you wouldn't follow company policies. Could you tell me a little bit about that? You could pull out that letter and say, here you go. This was about the vaccine, and I just wanted to make sure before I complied with any kind of request to get unwanted medical treatment that I was actually providing informed consent, and I asked them for the information so that I could provide that informed consent, and they refused to do that, and they decided to terminate me instead. Then you have documentation that that's exactly how it went down. So, of course, I know of some people who were let go from their positions earlier this year, who some were even elected officials and held obviously jobs in the private sector as well. And they were let go because they wouldn't get the vaccine or they wouldn't do, something of that nature. And of course, does it look like it's because of the vaccine? No. They make it look like, well, in one particular position, It was basically a sales position. So, oh, sales weren't good enough. We think it's, sales should have been better this year, so we're just going to have to let you go from that, or whatever the case may be. If you are documenting things as you go, oh, and by the way, the one person I'm thinking of off the top of my head, very smart guy, by the way, but he sent these emails and he did not BCC himself, his personal email. So as soon as his employment was terminated, of course, they terminated his access to that email, and he did not have the proof of having sent those emails and, essentially that memorializing of those conversations. So when you do this, if you are utilizing any kind of work email to memorialize those conversations with your employer, please make sure that you use the blind carbon copy BCC function and carbon copy yourself your personal email address so that you have record of it. And if you do receive a response, make sure you immediately forward that to your personal email account, because you will want to keep that on record and have ready access to that when who knows what may happen to your access if and when you may be let go at some point. Now I think I have answered all the questions that were being asked of me about that. Let me see. I'm just going to see if anybody had any specific questions. Huh. It's interesting about Hobby Lobby. Okay, so far, yeah, I'm seeing a lot of discussion back and forth. Again, I'm seeing YouTube, two different channels of YouTube that we have, and Facebook. And I'm not seeing any questions that I haven't answered. I just see a lot of discussion back and forth. If you've asked a question on here and I have not answered it, then I am sorry, but I'm not intentionally skipping over it. Do I see somebody asking if I have a spare room. I actually was going to give, the answer is no, I don't currently, and I can explain the logistics of that, but yes, I will actually do a separate video, a separate update with what's going on with us, why you have not seen very many videos, and give you some specifics because it is too unbelievable for words. Okay. Brian Bear, you said I read these. I read these comments on a thread today. We will call them person A and B. Catherine, can you speak to this? But then I didn't see any of the comments, so I'm sorry, Brian. I can't. I don't know if you meant to add anything else, but it didn't come through. Okay, so let's skip to the bottom. Let's see. Oh. How long before I post this to YouTube? This video is live on YouTube right now and will remain live until they take it down, I guess. I would say no. Court rulings, including with the Supreme Court, generally have not favored vaccine mandates. There have been certain situations where the specifics were different and unique, and they made bad decisions, don't get me wrong, but they are not broadly favoring vaccine mandates for everyone everywhere. I think with that being said, we were able to get through all the questions that I saw, all the topics that I saw, and hopefully that was able to get you guys enough information to realize it's the same issue, and it is the same constitutional fight that we've had all along. You have the knowledge, you have the power, you just have to stand up and do something in your realm, whatever that looks like, whether that's at your workplace or within your own home and teaching your children or writing your state reps or going to city council meetings. Go to subcommittee meetings. Go to, if you're close enough to your state capital and you can go to subcommittee meetings, or if you are, if your area or your entity that's involved is doing Zoom or something like that, attend, watch, show them that what's going on, ask the questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions, but certainly don't be afraid to just show up and watch and not ask questions. And I will say, if you do show up physically to any kind of governmental meeting and you see someone that you think is doing the right thing and fighting for freedom and doing doing what they need to do to stand up for the Constitution and for our rights, when the end of that meeting has happened and you're leaving, can you do me a favor? Can you make sure to, despite even if you're super shy or whatever, do me a favor and try to approach that person just to tell them thank you. If there's a long line of people that are there and you don't want to wait for them, don't have time to wait for them, or talking to somebody is just really uncomfortable for you, you're just a really quiet person, try to do everything you can to make eye contact with the people that you think got it right and are fighting for your freedom, just to give them the thumbs up or to give them a wave or something. Smile at them, give them some sort of indication. I mean, truly, as simple as it might be, a smile and a thumbs up can tell your state rep or your city council member or your township trustee or your county commissioner, whoever it is, it could tell them that they're on the right track, and it can give them the encouragement that they need. Now, I didn't need a whole lot of encouragement in terms of knowing which way was the right thing to advocate for when I was serving as township trustee. I knew what the Constitution said, I knew what the law said, and even if I was the only one to vote a certain way or I was a minority, it didn't matter. I knew that I was going to fight for what the Constitution and what the law said, and that's what I was going to do. That was my job to do. But even for me, who is confident in the law and confident in the Constitution and what my role was in that regard, it still was very helpful at the end of a long meeting or even a short one to have somebody get up, walk out of the room, make eye contact with me, and just give me the thumbs up to let me know, you know what, Catherine, we were here, we were paying attention, and we appreciate what you were doing. That is essential. So just as much as you need to hold accountable those government officials who are doing wrong, and by all means, I'm saying, go ahead and glare at them or give them the look like, really? You just voted that way? Are you serious? Have a big piece of paper called the Constitution and just point to it and be like, do you see this? The Constitution, as you walk out. That'd be a way for you to say something without ever having to wait to speak to somebody, right? Every time that they think they're doing something, they won't be called out on, just have something, a little placard made up that says, remember the Constitution, and hold it up. That'd be an easy way. And then maybe you could just have another one that says, thank you for remembering the Constitution. Thank you for remembering your oath of office. Something like that. But in all seriousness, it's just as important to keep encouraging those who you are finding are doing good as it is to hold accountable those who are not doing good. And when I say accountable, don't show up to call somebody names. Don't attack them personally. Make sure you are keeping it on target, on point, and that it is relevant to the subject that they are discussing. Because if you want to make a difference, if you want to make an impact, if you are going to personally attack, say, a school board member or a township trustee or a state representative at a subcommittee meeting, and think that you're going to get somewhere, you're really not. You're not going to speak to them in a way that is going to matter to them. And you're going to turn off anybody that was on the fence. Don't be that person that turns off the people that were on the fence from seeing that kernel of truth that they need to see. If they think, gosh, this one side, I just don't know, it's not making sense. I mean, I could see what they're both saying. And then they have you come in and you're like, well, I think it should be about the Constitution and about freedom. And by the way, you're a really stupid idiot and I hate you and whatever, right? If you're going to do that, then they're going to be like, ooh, if that's what that side is saying, yeah, I think I probably do side with this other side better. Don't be that person that loses the fence riders. Be the person that's cool, calm, and collected, but passionate about your rights, passionate about your freedom, passionate about the freedom of your children and your grandchildren, or your parents and your grandparents. Be passionate about the things that you love and be willing to fight for them. So with that being said, hopefully that advice will help you and carry you. And there's Lori. So I will see you guys momentarily for a hopefully much shorter update, not about the law, but about what's been going on with us. And just to let you know, we're still here and answer some questions, because I've had some people starting to reach out, text, email, whatever, and asking what's going on and how we're doing, and I want to give you that information. I've never done a full video just about what's happening with us personally, but I think you'll understand why once I do that. In the meantime, if you are a fan of Fox 2 Detroit's Let It Rip show, my understanding is that sometime after 8:30 in the morning, this coming Sunday, September 13th? No, September 12th, I will be defending freedom and the Constitution on Fox 2 Detroit's Let It Rip show. And I was informed, you guys will love it, I was informed that Charlie Langton will find the most liberal, Biden-loving lawyer he can to debate me on these new Biden administration policies and mandates. So this should be entertaining, and hopefully people will be able to learn a lot and be able to see what's going on. So tune in to Fox 2 Detroit this Sunday, Sunday morning, and hopefully it's before most of you go to church. But if not, I'm sure you'll be able to go on their website or ours afterwards to view it. And I would ask for your prayers that I can make sure that I bring the truth to light in that video segment, and I get all the information out that needs to be out in that segment, so that more people can come over to the light and see why we're fighting so hard for this freedom in the first place. All right, guys, thank you, and tune in just a minute if you want to hear updates on what's going with us personally in our personal fight for our freedom. Thanks.